family, enjoy a day in the beach, but safety first. We're asking everybody to follow the
Don't
rules.
see
Please maintain social distancing,
board member
and please
James
follow the instructions that are
on. I
given
see
to you
her.
when you arrival to the beach. Situation with
Do
the
you think
parking
she
is that
just
we will allow
started
vehicles
with
onto the beach,
PTO?
onto our
Just want to
parking
make sure
lot.
she's there
Once our
before we get
parking lot
started.
reaches max capacity, at that point we will shut the parking lot down. We will not be
Board member
allowing any
James,
more.
are you there? Board member,
Hello.
hello?
I've got to call in from my phone because I don't know. Every time I'm in a meeting, it kicks me back out. So until I guess I figure it out,
Okay,
I
hopefully,
guess I'll be on my phone.
hopefully we'll get it figured out by the 7 o'clock. Okay. Good evening. This is the Community Redevelopment Agency virtual regular meeting. It is Tuesday, June 9, 2020 at 5:32 p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Chair Llewellyn,
Here.
Vice Chair Odman,
Here.
Board Member Brandemart,
Can't hear you. Checking. Again.
Board Member Brandemart.
Here.
Thank you. Board Member Harris,
Here.
Board Member James,
Here.
CRA Director Williams,
Muted.
Here.
City Attorney Ansborough.
I don't have any citizens comments. Did anybody receive any?
No.
Okay. Next item is administrative reports. Is that Executive Director?
Thank you, Chair Llewellyn. I just wanted to update you on a few of our current activities. Item number 1 on the administrative report memo indicates that we have planned some items in our budget that will need to be either canceled, modified, or deferred. Some of these things have been done already out of necessity due to COVID-19. And some of the items listed are what I'm recommending that we either put off for next year or we reduce this year in order to make sure that we can cover any potential losses to revenue as a result of COVID-19. So just to kind of give you a summary, our sources of revenue that have been impacted or that will be impacted include the art and seafood celebration, the sales at the patch, as well as potential income from the sale of the single family homes that we're currently developing. For each home that is sold, the CRA receives $20,000. So right now, we do have budgeted that we will sell 4 of the homes this year, and we are on track to do that. But just in case anything happens, you want to make sure. So the items that are listed, they total about $250,000 in potential savings. But again, we have to look at the potential loss of revenue that we are projecting and anticipating as a result of COVID-19. And again, this is just a preliminary step. About a month ago, I introduced a couple recommendations, and those are also listed here. But as things evolve and as we get more of a firm idea of where we're going to land, we may also need to do some additional things in our budget so that we have a balanced budget by the end of the fiscal year, and so that we are, looking ahead to fiscal year 2021 with a different lens. So I just wanted to make you aware of my thoughts on that. As far as business outreach, we continue to do that through staff, through phone calls, emails, newsletters, social media, just getting an idea of how the businesses are being impacted. I will say that I had a very positive meeting this morning with board member Bill Harris, as well as our economic development manager. And, I'll allow board member Harris to expound on that if he so chooses. Just getting an idea of how our businesses are doing and what we can potentially do for them this fiscal year and for next fiscal year. So some of the ideas that we have include micro enterprise, small business assistance, reimbursement grants for personal protective equipment that these businesses have had to purchase in order to create a safe environment, as well as grants for advertising and signage that they have had to purchase as a result of this pandemic and trying to, get people to come back to their business safely. We do see a potential to craft a program for this year. What I'm doing right now is waiting on our survey results. We have the survey, it's been open and advertised since May 28th, and we're going to leave it open through June so that we can get as many people to respond as possible. We're also working with the Chamber of Commerce, who has an ongoing survey right now with their members. And we're going to basically be trading notes to see what the businesses are saying that they need or how they've been impacted. We do know that Dania Beach businesses continue to get PPP loans through the Small Business Administration. So we are happy to hear information like that. Some businesses will go on the record to say that they have received it, some will not, as many businesses are making determinations as to how they will utilize those funds and don't necessarily want to give false hope to employees that have been furloughed or let go as a result of COVID-19. Moving on to our partners, I'm sorry, Chair Llewellyn?
No.
Okay.
Not me. Vice Chair has her hand up though.
Thank you. Director Williams, do you have a number for approximately how many of the CRA businesses received the PPP loans?
So the way that we can break it down is by zip code. And so we're looking at 2 Dania Beach zip codes. We know that based on the information from the SBA, like they won't necessarily distinguish if the business is in the CRA or not. They just do it by zip code. So that's how we've been looking at it. We do know that since the last meeting that we had, where it was reported that between like 1,300 and 1,400 businesses have received PPP loans, we know that that number has gone up. I haven't gotten the latest numbers for this week, but I can get that number for you. But we don't know exactly how many in the CRA, only because it's really done by zip code. So.
Also, you don't even know for 33312 how many would be Dania Beach, right?
Correct.
Okay. And my other question was, do you have any update as to when that window will be closing for those loans?
Well, the funding will be available for as long as it's available. So,
okay, so just until it's done what's done. Okay.
correct. Okay, so I wanted to touch on our partnership with Feeding South Florida. We really, we got some feedback from some members of the community, particularly our senior residents, some of which were not able to participate in the distributions that have been occurring in Dania Beach and in the surrounding areas because of transportation issues or just not wanting to be exposed or, for whatever reason, our seniors have expressed to us that there's a desire for assistance. And so we partnered with Feeding South Florida in order to have meal boxes and produce boxes delivered to our senior residents. We did reach out to the Dania Beach Senior Citizens Club as well as Gracefully Aging. We have reached out to the Saratoga property managers, and they are assisting us with identifying those residents in their senior building who are interested in receiving produce, not only from Feeding South Florida, but also through the patch. We have received some donations that will be applied to our miscellaneous revenue in order to provide the produce from the patch to these residents. So not only are we doing something that is worthwhile for our seniors, but we're also finding a way to generate revenue as the patch has experienced some loss of activity due to COVID-19. On Thursday, we will be visiting the Saratoga Senior Building. And as I explained in an email from, I think, last week or the week before, you are welcome to join us while we do that distribution. That will be Thursday morning at 9 a.m. So just, let me know if you're interested in participating in that. We also have online sales that continue to increase at the patch. From April to May, we have increased our transactions by 60%, and we have actually doubled the number of unique customers from April to May. So we definitely want to continue with the online ordering system that has been implemented. We do plan to reopen the patch market on Saturday, this Saturday. We have been making all the preparations necessary for us to have a safe shopping experience. We will also have volunteers on Saturday. It will be our first time allowing folks back into the actual marketplace, whereas online orders have been facilitated outside of the gates. So this Saturday will be our first time opening it up to the general public. And, we're excited to begin again and to hopefully increase our revenue because of that beginning. I just want to let you know that the Tryon project is currently in permitting and community development. So we are certainly following the progress of that project, as we have significant investment that we're going to be making towards seeing that project come to fruition. Our loan to grant conversion, I think it's, I don't remember on the list it is, but we have a pending loan to grant conversion application that we're going to be putting together for Broward County, but we are waiting on the property appraiser to finalize the assessments for this year, and those should come out in July. Once those assessments are finalized, then we will put together a package to request loan to grant conversion. Hopefully that will completely take care of the remaining balance of about $620,000. We are looking at some projects that have been newly developed but were not appraised by the property appraiser. And, we are getting all the documents together to identify which projects qualify for loan to grant conversion. We also have our single family housing project. All 6 of the homes have reached completion outside of 3 elements. So that is installation of the air conditioning units, installation of the appliances, and completion of the landscaping. Now, these 3 elements are intentionally not being fully completed at this time because we want to ensure that those particular items happen close to the closing date for the homes. So we do have the 4 buyers that we recently approved for our down payment assistance. They are still in the process of trying to acquire the funding from Broward County through their Housing Finance Division. And we do not want to go through with those 3 elements only because of potential risk that could be associated with having those items either installed, or as far as landscaping is concerned, there's a lot of maintenance that would be involved. And we don't want to do it too soon before we have a closing date that's identified. Once we do, we will install all of those items, or the contractor will install those items, and then have it go through the final inspection process to get a certificate of occupancy. We do have our entryway signs. They are currently in right-of-way permitting with the city. And from what I understand, that should be coming through very soon. The ones that are in FDOT right-of-ways also needed to have Dania Beach right-of-way approvals. And so that's what's happening right now with those 6. They have been fabricated and are just awaiting installation once we get that right-of-way permit. Coming up, probably sometime either tomorrow or on Thursday, once I have all of the documents in order, we do have some more information that has come back from Knee Baby Arts, artist Gary Moore, who has been working with us on the Art of Community project. And as I've indicated in I think a couple previous meetings, we had some discussions with the Community Foundation of Broward about what they would like to see. And one of those things included a mural. Rather than just having artistic markers, the Community Foundation of Broward is interested in one of the markers being something totally different and having a different vibe completely. So we will be bringing to you not only via email, but also we're going to have a discussion item later on to talk about a potential location for a mural. We have identified a property owner that is along the tracks on Dania Beach Boulevard who is willing to house a mural, and that's something that obviously will need to be permitted, and we'll need to go through the process of getting the approvals that are necessary. So more information on that will be coming up. And I think that's all that I have for right now, and I'll take any questions at this time.
I have a couple questions. I know that you also are doing for the businesses, the Love Locals program that you've been posting on Facebook, which I think is a good idea. I would ask though that you coordinate that with the city, because we also have our I Love Locals program that we're doing, and I just don't want to have the same businesses overlapping as far as what we're promoting. I'm sure there are some that haven't been touched yet that we need to make sure that we're promoting so that this way, because I know, for example, Palos has been featured twice, for example. There's been some others that have been featured twice. I think Bake Shack was another one that was featured twice. And just so that we're kind of giving an opportunity to all who are out there, so that this way everybody gets a chance to get promoted in one form or another. I think that's all I have for questions. Anybody else?
I did want to add something. Later on today, there will be a special event request permit from Dania Point regarding the graduation event that they're having, and just wanted to let you know that the CRA will be participating in that event and assisting with some marketing materials, and we will have a presence there to promote the patch.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is no presentations tonight. Next is consent agenda. Do we have any pulls? I'm going to pull 5.5. Everyone's muted. Hold on.
Motion to approve with the exception of 5.5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 5.5.
Is a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, condemning all acts of police brutality, racial profiling, and unwarranted and excessive force, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date, sponsored by Board Member James.
I pulled this item because I'm not quite sure why it's on the CRA agenda and not on the city agenda, the city commission agenda. It seems like something that should be on for the entire city, except for one area. Board Member James? Can't hear you. Okay, try again.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Hear you now.
Awesome. I put this item on the CRA agenda. If you read the the resolution, the reason why it's on the CRA agenda, because that is where the most concentrated number of Blacks and minorities reside. Not saying that it can't be duplicated and also passed at cities level, but I definitely wanted to make sure that I was addressing the direct reason that all the protests and all of the walks and all of everything else, the peace walks and all of those things are happening because of areas that are concentrated with people of color and Black people.
I still think, I don't know, and I don't know if legal can talk about this at all, but my concern is that if we are strictly putting it on the CRA agenda at this point, there's also a paragraph in here that doesn't really, not really consistent with the rest of it. Because if it is going to be specifically with regard to people of color in a particular neighborhood, there's a paragraph here that talks about others, individuals with disabilities, marginalized communities, LGBTQ plus, individuals, immigrants, homeless, that sort of thing. And I don't think that that's necessarily limited to one neighborhood. So
It can go in both.
Let me just
It can
finish.
go under both.
Let me just finish. I just don't think that it is something that we should be having just under the CRA. I think if you're gonna put it somewhere separate, I think you put it under the city and don't put it in the CRA, put it in the city as a whole. And I'd rather see it move to the city as opposed to being put under the CRA as a separate resolution. I don't know if anybody else.
Okay. Well, can I respond?
You may.
Okay. I don't agree with that. If you want it to be on the city's agenda, you can sponsor the item and it can go on the city's agenda. I do think that we can address where these things are happening. That's a fact. It's not an option or an opinion about where the most concentrated Black people are. And not saying that just because I'm sponsoring an item on the CRA's agenda doesn't mean that you can't sponsor that same item on the commission agenda. If it's that big of a deal, if you want it to be on the commission's agenda, you can put it on the commission agenda as well. But I am not removing my item. You all can vote it down, which is contradictory to whatever else we are portraying or doing on the outside. But as far as where I place my item, I place my item there. Legal has looked at my item. The CRA executive director has looked at my item, and it is there. It is there to either be voted up or voted down. And I have something that I wanted to read, but I'll wait for the rest of the commentary. The thing is, so this is why you pulled it.
Board Member Brandon Marty?
Yes, I don't see where there should be any objection to it being equally on the CRA's agenda and also on our commission agenda. What would an objection be?
My objection is not really an objection. It's a concern that you're basically saying that you are condemning these types of events, these types of issues happening in one part of town, but you're not condemning it in the entire city. That's what my concern is.
You would be right, absolutely right, if it was not also put on the commission agenda. Then your point is well taken.
And it's not on the commission agenda. It's only on the CRA. That's my point.
Then I think we better put it on the other one too.
Let me raise my hand. I'm not right now. I'm just on my phone. So.
That's equality. Put it on both.
If it was on the other one, it would be a whole different story. I'm just concerned that it's limiting it to one area and it's treating the situation differently in different neighborhoods. And I'll give you an example. There are two young men that live around the corner from me right now who are actually in Fort Lauderdale. One of them actually did get shot with rubber bullets. And there are people of color who were down there and they went through something that wasn't necessary. So, it's like saying that they can be subjected to this, but the people in the CRA district cannot. And that's what my concern is. That's all. I'm just saying that instead of putting it here, if we take it off of here and we put it on the agenda for the city for the next meeting, we can go ahead and do it then and approve it then. That's all I'm saying. Lots of people have their hands up here. So, Board Member James?
Yes, it's not saying that it only resides in the CRA. It's saying that this CRA board is recognizing and the CRA board is speaking out against it. It is not, nowhere on there does it say that this only happens in the CRA area or a particular neighborhood. Nowhere on it, because I've read through it several times. Nowhere on it is it insinuating that it's only happening there. The reason why the CRA, the name is there, is because we are the CRA board, and we should be recognizing that. And you, as the mayor, if you would like to also mirror it and put it on the city's agenda, like we do with a lot of other policies, like we do with a lot of other policies, feel free to do so. I will support it, but I'm not in favor of moving it just to the city's agenda. If you want to have a mirror, go ahead, but this is not. It's not even a big deal to say that. But it's putting words in my mouth actually to say that this is saying that it only happens in the CRA neighborhood. That's not what this item said, and that's not what this item was meant to be interpreted as. So if that's how you interpret it, that's not what I'm saying. This item is saying that the CRA board condemns all of the other things that is in the resolution. It's not saying that it's only in the CRA.
Vice Chair?
I was just gonna say that, I mean, it's fine.
I can't hear you.
What'd you say?
My,
I hear you
I couldn't hear anybody.
breaking up.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are. You're frozen.
Okay. I was just going to say, can you
Hello?
hear my audio?
Sometimes it keeps out.
Can you hear my audio?
Now we can.
Hmm. I was just going to say that we could also put this on the city commission agenda instead of going back and forth on it.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
If she wants to keep it here.
Fine. Board member Brandon Marty, you had your hand up or no?
I say put it on both.
Fine. Go ahead. Any other discussion? Board member Harris?
I would say make it bigger and broader and more encompassing and put it on the city agenda as soon as we can get it on there, and make it bigger and broader and more encompassing of all minorities all over the city, from the beach to 441. And that way we have everyone and we're all in agreement that this is what our city stands for, regardless if we're on the CRA board or the planning and zoning board or the commission board, that we support this as a whole throughout the entire city for all minorities and anyone affected, the whole city. That would be my motion, is to move it to a bigger, broader resolution by our entire city, and then we can really push it forward on the commission agenda as soon as possible. If not tonight, even.
So are you making a motion? Is that what you're saying?
That would be my motion, yes.
The Commissioner James has her hand up. Yeah.
Listen,
There you are. Go ahead.
Oh,
I got
sorry.
you.
I feel like every time I have an item on here, it's hijacked and it's turned into someone else's item and someone else's motion and someone else's discussion. And it's really at this point, it's crazy. And I know I'm not the only person that sees that. Listen, we want to make everything all broader and bigger and make sure this is what the full city represents. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we had we lit up City Hall in honor of George Floyd, and didn't even see, or no one called me and asked me how I felt about it. No one asked me what my stance was on it. No one said, let's do it for everybody that died. The city didn't even put out any type of statement denouncing any type of police brutality, the issues that happened. The only thing that the city did was speak on our behalf. So when it comes down to something and I'm issuing an item to build consensus, to follow the right protocols, to put it on here to be voted up or to be voted down, we're talking about if the city stands for this. How did we know all five stood for lighting up the city in honor of George Floyd? We didn't even put out a statement, but we're doing it to take pictures. Furthermore, it's on our social media. I wasn't consulted about it or how I felt about it. And if I even agreed with it or not, I don't know if everyone else agreed with it or not. The decision already was made. Now, this is my item. You can either vote it up or you can vote it down. But it's time out for making everything broader and more encompassing. What we're talking about right now, while we lit up City Hall last night, wasn't broader or encompassing. It was because of a Black man that was killed by a police that used excessive force. It wasn't about every other incident that happened. It wasn't about any other situation that happened. It was an isolated incident. And that's what this is about. That's what my item is about. If anyone wants to sponsor an item and bring an item back and have that under their name, feel free to do so. I always support your items when it comes and it speaks on whatever everyone else is feeling, but it's from your heart. I always accept those. Every time I have an item, you guys want to pick it apart, pick what stays, pick what goes. Guess what? If you're not against police brutality, if you're not against the protesting, if you're not against the unjust things that are happening in our city, I don't understand how we can even put up and light up the city and no one even asks our opinion about that. So I'm not doing things for show and for light. This is why I'm doing things, because we do a great job of posting stuff on Facebook and changing our pictures. We do a great job of showing up at events, but we do a horrible job at policy. We do a horrible job at doing the actual work. So this is doing the actual work. So this is my item. And my item, I want it to be passed as is. That's respect to my item. You don't get to tell me what I need to add in it. No, go do your own item and bring it back. Commissioner Harris, if that was your idea, you should have had something on this agenda. Not take someone else's item and make it bigger and broader and better and then bring it back. That's not what this is about. Stop taking every time I do something. Stop, I'm not finished talking. Stop taking every time I do something. It gets ripped apart in this process and it's always brought back, or someone else is always making a motion about my item before I can even open my mouth.
Okay, number one, I just want to say that I think that you just talked about people putting words in your mouth. You completely put words in my mouth. I think in Commissioner Harris's mouth. I can't speak for anybody else, but from what I just heard, you basically twisted everything we're saying. Nobody's saying that they are in favor of police brutality. Nobody is saying that they have that they agree with anything that happened. Nobody's saying that. And as far as policy making, I think we do a pretty good job of making policy. I don't think that that is something that is a problem here. The problem that I'm having is that there has been a discussion, as you know, amongst a lot of people lately about uniting the city. And my concern is that this particular policy, because you are limiting it to one neighborhood, is making it a divisive policy. What I'm only simply asking for is to have it on a broader scale, to encompass the entire city, to encompass all of the people that it could potentially affect. So that's all. It's not a matter of saying that, you know, I agree with what happened, because I certainly don't. And I think you know that. But the problem is that it's turning into a situation where it's being focused on one area. And it's not the only area where people are impacted. There are a number of people, I can tell you, in my neighborhood, which is not in the CRA, who have been impacted and do experience this, so that I have spoken with. So I can tell you that I just don't think that this is that it should be under just strictly the CRA. That's all I'm saying. This is not about somebody approving or disapproving certain things that occurred. And I really resent the fact that you would even imply that or say it outright, because it's really simply not true. No, it's your opinion, and it doesn't.
And that's yours.
And it doesn't make it right. No, I know what my feelings are. I know exactly what my feelings are.
And I know what mine are. And I know what mine are.
I'm not going to have you sit here and try to tell me how I feel about something. I'm not going to have you do that. So let me ask if there is a, Brandon Martin, I was going to see if there was a second to his motion.
That isn't what I want to say, Mayor. It's something else. I'm not seeing any compassion here at all. And that's wrong. I do not see compassion here. So what? One day, one of you may come, believe in you, and we know what we'd be fighting for, right? And I feel your pain. And that's why I would agree with what you were saying. And that's the way I feel about Commissioner James. I feel her pain. And I agree. She presented this. she wants this, why not? That's all. I would do the same for the other commissioner, no matter what he was fighting for, if it was legit. I feel the compassion, but out of all of us, I feel I'm the only one that feels the pain. This really means something to her. And because of that, it should mean something to all of us. I wish even the city manager could weigh in on this. I really do. But it's important to her. Shouldn't that be enough?
So I'm going back to, is there a second to Commissioner or Board Member Harris's motion? Okay. Do we have another motion?
I make a motion to approve 5.5.
Second.
Third, second, oh,
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay. There's no proposals and bids. No possible action. Board member comments, Board Member Brandon Marty.
Yeah, I only want to ask, here we go, right? I'm asking you to consider putting ribbon cutting on hold for a little while. And I want to tell you why, Mayor, because I would have loved to have gone to Rodizio's, but as soon as they said that they were going to have different seatings and all of that, I'm seeing by the opening of places on COVID that they're not really properly handled. And Rodizio's ribbon cutting was not handled with the COVID guidelines at all, which I knew was going to happen. That's why I didn't attend. I myself could not be in the midst of so many people at one time. And when it came to cut the ribbon, our residents didn't know the difference between you all that are the leaders of our city and the people, all the other people that were around you. And they've even asked me to ask you to please, when it cuts the ribbon, could it just be the commission and the city manager, of course, but afterwards, then take the photo with the others if that's what you want, but that we should set the example on masks, and there were no masks there. Also on the buffet, nobody's allowed to open up a buffet. How come they were? How come this was okay? And that's from our residents. It's not from me, because I knew enough ahead of time. Don't go. If they got to do it in shifts, they must be expecting a lot of people there. So it wasn't the right place for me to be. Now, I don't know who handled this. First, I heard it was the chamber. Then I heard it was the CRA. But I'm asking you, until it makes it safe, because I want to attend also, could you just put this ribbon cutting on hold for just a little while?
Executive Director.
Hi, Board Member Brandon Marty. I do want to address your concerns, and there were some areas that were identified as potentially an issue with that particular ribbon cutting, and those areas have been acknowledged. Some of those circumstances we were unaware of, what the protocol from the business owner, what the business owner desired, and what the setup on the inside as far as the buffet area was going to be. I do agree that it would be desirable to hold off on ribbon cuttings, particularly if the business owner is going to want staff to be included and involved in the picture taking aspect of it. I'm in agreement with that. If we can postpone those things, as you know, the CRA has postponed all events that we do where people will be participating. And so we were doing this in order to accommodate the business owner and to assist the chamber And this is something that, of course, it's a learning experience for everyone. This is the first ribbon cutting that has occurred during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so everything is a learning experience, and we're going to move forward with the concerns that you've raised in mind, and obviously wanting to promote our businesses and not do anything that would take away from their celebratory moment. But I do hear your concerns, and I had some as well.
Is that it for your comment?
Oh, that's it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Board Member Harris?
I just wanted to mention at the Reduzio that night, I believe that the guidelines that were in place at that time, Raquel, everybody was being followed. I mean, it was kind of a learning experience when you stood in line, 6-foot separation at the salad bar, and you had to put gloves on before you went to the salad bar, and they only allowed one person at a time at the salad bar. But, you know, those kind of things could be recognized as we move forward through these unknown times. But what I wanted to mention also from today, when we met at the Chaplain's Gourmet Market in the place at Dania Beach to address Lillian's concerns about the loss of business and kind of like the bad treatment that she's received from the property owner in terms of having to pay full rent and the lack of visibility. And so what Raquel and DeAndre and I talked about this morning was providing the Chaplain's Cafe with a little bit more visibility, possibly doing a Cra Ambassadors event, maybe some additional signage and business locators, I guess you would call them, to make draw a little bit more attention to them. Because as she mentioned, and maybe Commissioner James could speak to this as well, but she mentioned that the building is only occupied now at 50%. So she's lost a lot of her daily clientele. So as a struggling business, and she asked for help. So that's why I called Raquel and DeAndre to come over to see how we can brainstorm and try to make her more successful. So that's what we did this morning at 9 o'clock. So anybody who has anything to add to that, please feel free. As a business recovery. She didn't mention that she'd received the PPP. Did she mention that, Raquel, and the EIDL? But still, she's almost at her 1-year anniversary there. And of course, any business that's in town, we want to keep them. So anybody that has anything else to add, please do so.
Executive Director?
I just want to add to your comments. Board Member Harris did accurately depict the discussion that we had today, but I want to make sure that whatever we do going forward, that we make it available to as many businesses as possible. And, depending on how much funding we can reallocate and identify, I think that we can put something together that would be beneficial to Chaplain Gourmet Market and potentially other businesses as well that could use the same type of assistance.
Maybe that might be a place where we could do an I Love Local segment with one of the videos.
Mentioned that as well.
Yeah, that might be a good place for it if they're in need
But
of that.
I don't know if everybody's been there, but it's just, Raquel can tell you by the pineapple cake that she had this morning that it's a beautiful little charming place. And I happened to talk to a couple people that were there this morning, and they were staying at the True Hilton, and they walked over because they saw the sign from across the street. And they were from Key Largo, and being the hotel service is somewhat limited right now, that they came over and they were really impressed by what they saw. And there were a couple other, Raquel, 2 other people that came in there while we were there. But it's just a beautiful little place, and we want to do everything that we can to keep them and make them successful as they approach the 4th of July weekend, which is their 1-year anniversary. So if anybody wants to go there and have coffee and a really good snack in the morning, please, there's plenty of parking, there's plenty of availability, they have a great menu. Please go and check them out. It's delightful.
Board Member James? Hold on. We can't hear you.
I'll start off. Can you all hear me now?
Hear you now.
I'll start off with adding my comments about having an ambassadors program. We just had a board member ask that we limit having ribbon cuttings and things that, you know, aren't necessarily safe in distance with COVID. And so I am not going to be on board to having an ambassador program where you're going to gather a lot of people in a space. I quite frankly think that us as a commission and a CRA board, we need to be very careful of how we carry ourselves in regards of demanding one thing and doing something different. At the Rhodesia, because I've heard commentary on that, there was a large table with at least 10 people who were not all family members and at given time did not have on a mask and sat right there and ate with different friends and associates. However, we are having a problem with the actual cutting of a ribbon. We have to be careful on what we are demanding for our residents. We can't demand that we don't go out in public without our mask, or we stay a safe distance, or we can't do this and we can't do that. And then we are at a table with at least 10 people eating on food and sharing food. Especially, I was very uncomfortable at Rhodesia Grill, and I was spaced out at my table and not touching anything from anyone else. And I still felt uncomfortable. And I just can't see how we as policymakers, we are, conducting ourselves as we are above the laws that we are putting out. And I don't agree with that. Again, I will say it's been a very trying and tough couple of weeks. And I don't expect anyone to understand where I come from, where I am coming from. You won't understand it. I have to have conversations with my 8-year-old son about being born Black and that being a crime in America. And I know as a member of this board and a member of the commission, I will continue to fight for things that are not just. I will continue to fight for all of our communities, but I definitely will continue to fight the fight that we are fighting currently right now, being Black in America. And it's very, very difficult. It's very, very scary. And it's very, very depressing at times. But I am faithful and I am very, I don't know, I'm reluctant to say, but I have faith that this is not a race. It's not a race war that people are starting. We're trying to end a race war that has already been in America for many, many years. And so with my service here, I vow to continue to break down walls of discrimination. I vow to continue to try and move towards a unified body. But that starts right here on this dais, that starts right here with this board, and that starts right here with this commission. Can't make out statements, and we don't even get along as a commission. And I think that that's what needs work. Everyone needs to look inward to themselves. We are all at fault at one point and another, but we are not very supportive of each other when we bring different things to this commission. And that makes it very, very difficult to operate and out of a place of love and respect. Thank you.
Vice Chair? Hold on.
Is my audio any better than it was previous?
Yes.
Okay, well then I'll take the minute before it gets bad again. I didn't have anything to say, but I like what Board Member James said. I think it echoes something that we've talked about before at the City Commission meetings, that the unity starts on the board, and how can we talk about unity if we're fighting up here? And I know I'll take responsibility for times when I could have done better, and maybe when we're off the dais and we, look inward, like the board member said, and Board Member James said, we'll see that there are opportunities for us to be more supportive of each other, to be practicing more loving kindness towards each other, and that when we disagree with one another, to do so in a way that doesn't feel like we're breaking down anyone else. And for whatever degree I can do better, I know that I will try to do so. That's all I have. Thank you.
And I'm going to hold my comments for the commission meeting. So that's all. All right. No information items. With that, we're adjourned. We'll be back at 7.
I just make one more point.
Sure.
When we talked to the CRA director this morning, Commissioner James made it seem like it was a demand, but it was just a suggestion to see how we could help them. CRA Director, do you concur with my comment that it was just a suggestion to see how we could help? And we asked her what her capacity was in there, because we know that we can only allow the 50% capacity in there. And I think she said she had 32. So if we could, have 17 people there to support her, I'm just saying it was just a suggestion. If we can, strategize and think of a way to help her out, we would certainly suggest that we could, and it wouldn't be a demand. It would be just a suggestion.
Well, if I could respond to that through the chair. This morning during our discussion, the CRA Ambassador Program did come up as part of the discussion. And for those of you who may have forgotten or are unfamiliar, the CRA Ambassador Program involved us having events at new businesses that came to the city or that opened up, and we would invite residents in order for them to get a taste of that business and then go out and be the ambassador in the community to help promote that business. Now, we could look at a couple different ways to restart this program, which we had put on hiatus because there were just several ribbon cuttings that were happening. So we haven't done it in the way that we used to. But I think going forward, everything is going to change with the way that we operate when it comes to gatherings and events. And I think that we can find a way to be safe. Maybe there's a virtual component to it. Maybe we have residents going to these places and talking about their experiences there. Maybe there's specific groups that go within, a small number that gather and support the business. So I think that we have to look at things with a new approach and a new mindset. I don't think it's impossible that we bring this back to promote the businesses that we have, but we just have to do things a little bit differently going forward.
And actually, Executive Director, that's the reason, that's why I was saying about maybe doing one of those cuts with the videos, because you don't have to necessarily have people in the place when you're doing those. I know the Vice Mayor, when she went, there were a couple places that she went to and they weren't even open yet. So just having an opportunity to talk about what they do and maybe show around the place and how they're, the things that they offer and show the menu and the things that they've done to keep it safer, that might be a way to help with the whole thing. I think those spots have been very helpful to the businesses from the feedback that I've gotten from people that it makes a difference. So, because everything is a little slow right now. It really is very slow, and people are not going out to places yet. There are a couple of places they are, but most places they're not. And I can tell you, actually, I've seen some things in other cities that are very disappointing, where people are outright violating the law that's out there. So, with things that are open and are not being handled appropriately at all. So, just ways that we can help. Anyway.
Can I say one more thing?
Okay.
Getting back to Commissioner James's comment, I appreciate the comments from the Redizio that night, and I understand where you're coming from. I think part of the exuberance that night at Redizio was because everybody had been quarantined for a couple of months and they were ready to get out. And although we followed the table of 10 guidelines put out by the CDC, I believe everybody was safe when we arrived to wear the mask. So there's a lot of things that we could probably do better. And, your suggestions are very well appreciated and acknowledged. So we can all do things better. And I thank you for your comments. And we'll see where we go going forward. But thank you. Thank you very much.
Raquel, what is the address of Chaplain so people know where it is if they're watching?
I don't have the unit number off the top of my head. It's in the place at Dania Beach building on
180.
Okay, I'm sorry, 180 East Dania Beach Boulevard. So it's the only retail establishment on the first floor. There's parking in the rear of the building. And I do want to mention that the CRA has already featured this business on our Facebook, and if we want to do additional things, that's fine. But I just want to put that out there.
Okay. I think it was the first one that you mentioned, right? It was the first one that you used for that.
I thought we did Big Shack first. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at our Facebook.
That's okay. Okay. So let's go back to adjourning. Thank you. See you back at 7.